Anytime to show you.
Music has always had a cruel sense of irony. The artists who shaped entire generations of sound often lived and died in the shadows of lesser talents. These 12 musicians deserved far more than the mainstream ever gave them. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another deep dive like this one. Number 12. Big Star. Our three albums recorded between 1972 and 1974 introduced some of the most perfectly crafted power pop ever committed to tape. The problem was simple and devastating. Stax Records, the distribution arm handling their releases, was quietly collapsing from within, meaning copies of Number One Record and Radio City never reached the stores that had ordered them. Critics who managed to hear the music were floored, praising the songwriting as some of the finest coming out of Memphis or anywhere else in America. By the mid-1980s, REM, The Replacements, and Teenage Fan Club were all openly crediting Big Star as foundational to everything they were doing. Alex Chilton and Chris Bell had essentially written the template for alternative rock without receiving a meaningful royalty from it. Recognition came. It simply came 20 years too late, and Chris Bell, who died in a car accident in 1978 at 27, never experienced it at the scale it deserved. Number 11. Nick Drake. Pink Moon reportedly sold fewer than 5,000 copies in its first pressing, and his earlier two albums fared little better during his lifetime. Island Records grew frustrated with his refusal to tour or promote his work, and Drake himself grew increasingly withdrawn, convinced his music had failed to connect with anyone who mattered. He passed away on November 25, 1974, at just 26 years old, never knowing the scale of what he had built.
Something that's past. Do you find things are moving?
A Volkswagen commercial in 1999 used Pink Moon and introduced him to millions of new listeners overnight. Artists from Paul Weller to Norah Jones have since cited him as a defining voice of introspective songwriting. The tragedy is not just that he was ignored, it is that he died believing the silence meant failure. The silence meant nothing of the sort.
What is true seems so sad.
Number 10. Judee Sill.
Sweet communion of a kiss.
David Geffen signed her as one of the very first artists to Asylum Records in 1971, a moment that should have launched a significant career. Her self-titled debut carried orchestral arrangements, deeply personal spiritual lyrics, and a voice critics compared to a cathedral hymn. Neither that album nor its follow-up, Heart Food, released in 1973, made a meaningful dent in the charts. By most accounts, Geffen prioritized Jackson Browne and Joni Mitchell, leaving Sill without the promotional machinery she plainly needed. She recorded demos for a third album that was never completed or released, and by the late 1970s had disappeared from public life entirely. She passed away in 1979 at 35. Decades later, she has been rediscovered as one of the singular voices of the early singer-songwriter era, a musician who wrote music too layered and too uncompromising for the radio formats of her time.
Looking all around when I felt it there inside me, and I see a possibility.
Number 9. Terry Reid. Jimmy Page personally called him in 1968 and asked him to front the band that would become Led Zeppelin. He said no. Page then called Robert Plant. History moved on without Reid, though Reid himself never quite moved on with it. His solo debut showcased a voice drawing immediate comparisons to the greatest soul and rock singers of the era. Fellow musicians, including Page himself, spoke openly about Reid's extraordinary talent, and the mythology of the missed opportunity followed him for the rest of his career. River, released in 1973, earned strong critical notices without generating proportional sales. The story of his near misses became one of the most fascinating and melancholy footnotes in rock history. proof that sometimes talent is necessary, but not sufficient. Before we continue, which of these artists did you actually know before clicking on this video? Were any of them regulars on your turntable back in the day? Drop a comment below and tell us where in the world you are watching from. Number 8. Love. In the autumn of 1967, a Los Angeles band released Forever Changes, a record that blended orchestral strings, acoustic guitar, and psychedelic imagery into something with no real comparison point anywhere in pop music. The Doors were selling out arenas. Love was playing the same Sunset Strip circuit and drawing comparable crowds. Yet Elektra Records never found a way to translate that local energy into national reach. The album barely made a ripple commercially. Rolling Stone has since ranked it among the greatest albums ever recorded. Pete Townshend called it a masterpiece without qualification. REM and The Clash both cited Arthur Lee as a direct influence. Lee passed away on August 3, 2006, and the full weight of his contribution to rock music continues to be calculated. Forever Changes was too far ahead of its time to be heard clearly, and by the time the world caught up, the man who made it was gone.
I said August is all that I know. It's with me wherever.
Number 7. Gene Clark.
You need not to defend love.
As a founding member of the Byrds, he co-wrote I'll Feel a Whole Lot Better and contributed essential material to the band's first 3 albums before severe anxiety about flying forced him off the road in 1966. His departure came at the exact moment the Byrds were becoming one of the biggest acts in America, and the timing cast a long shadow over everything that followed.
See, changing window.
No Other, his 1974 solo album for Asylum Records, fused gospel, country rock, and cosmic Americana into something genuinely unlike anything else released that year. It sold poorly and was deleted from the catalog within months. Clark continued recording into the 1980s for devoted but small audiences. He passed away on May 24, 1991. No Other has since been reissued and reassessed as one of the great lost albums of any era, not just its own.
Never thought that we would find out in this way. This like everything.
Number 6. Margo Guryan.
To remind me of being in love.
Bell Records released Take a Picture in 1968 during the peak of the Sunshine Pop movement, a moment when Guryan's precisely orchestrated melodies and delicate vocals should have found a natural audience. The critical reception was warm. The sales were not, and the reason was one of the most unusual in pop music history. She did not want to tour. She did not want to do interviews. She did not want to perform on television. In an era when label promotion depended almost entirely on an artist's physical presence, she simply refused.
Till I reach the moon in all of its glory, and still I live to tell.
Bell Records had no mechanism for marketing a record whose creator would not participate in its own promotion. The album quietly disappeared. A 2000s reissue introduced Take a Picture to a new generation who immediately recognized what 1968 had collectively missed. Some legacies arrive on their own schedule entirely.
It's Spanky and our gang, laughing like a bunch of children flying high.
Number 5. Townes Van Zandt.
Sing in tongues of silver. I heard her cry on a summer storm.
Willie Nelson once said that Townes Van Zandt was the greatest living songwriter in America, and that he meant it as verifiable fact rather than opinion. Emmylou Harris recorded his songs. Guy Clark called him the standard by which all other writers should be measured. None of it translated into the commercial profile his peers enjoyed.
Pancho was a bandit, boys. His horse was fast, just polished steel.
Pancho and Lefty, written by Van Zandt in 1972, became a #1 country hit in 1983 when Nelson and Merle Haggard recorded it together. Van Zandt received the royalties. He never received the recognition that should have accompanied them. He passed away on New Year's Day, 1997, at 52. The outlaw country movement he helped define rewarded almost everyone around him more generously than it rewarded him. The injustice of his anonymity is part of what makes it hurt.
For the turning of night into day, and the turning of day into cursing.
Before we reach the top 4, a quick question. Did any of these artists ever get the airplay they deserved on your local radio station? Or were you finding them through friends and late-night radio? Let us know in the comments. Number 4. The Zombies are...
But it's too late to say you're sorry. How would I know? Why should I care?
Judee and Oracle was recorded in 1967 at Abbey Road Studios, the same building where the Beatles had just completed Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The album arrived in early 1968 to almost complete commercial indifference. CBS Records in America showed minimal interest in promoting it, and the band had already dissolved by the time anyone paid serious attention to what they had made.
It's too late to say you're sorry. How would I know? Why should I care?
Time of the Season eventually climbed to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 in early 1969. The band it made famous no longer existed. Several fake Zombies lineups toured America to capitalize on the hit, none involving actual members of the group. Judee and Oracle has since appeared on dozens of greatest albums ever lists. The real Zombies eventually reunited decades later to finally receive the applause the record always deserved. Better late than never, though never came close. Number 3. Warren Zevon. Werewolves of London reached number 21 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1978 and became the kind of novelty-adjacent hit that can quietly trap a genuinely serious artist. Audiences who loved the song often failed to explore the darker, more literary territory of albums like Excitable Boy, released that same year. The Werewolf ate the rest of the catalog. Jackson Browne produced Zevon's commercial breakthrough in 1976, drawing immediate praise from critics and fellow musicians, including Bruce Springsteen, who spoke consistently about Zevon being among the most intelligent writers in American music. The mainstream never fully agreed.
You hear him howling around your kitchen door. You better not let him in.
When diagnosed with mesothelioma in 2002, he recorded one final album, The Wind, which won 2 Grammy Awards at the 2004 ceremony. He passed away on September 7, 2003. The recognition arrived the way it so often does for artists like this, at the very end. Number 2. Laura Nyro.
People, come on, children, come on down to the glory river.
At 19 years old, she walked onto the Monterey International Pop Festival stage in June 1967 and delivered a performance so emotionally raw that large portions of the audience responded with open hostility. What the critics missed was that she had already written half the pop hits of the next 2 years.
Dancing sky, sweet mother.
Eli's Coming reached the top 10 for 3 Dog Night. Stone Soul Picnic reached number 3 for The Fifth Dimension. And When I Die took blood, sweat, and tears to number 2. Every song was a Laura Nyro original, and none of the success attached meaningfully to her own name. Elton John cited her as a primary influence on his piano style. Joni Mitchell acknowledged her as a peer without equal. She passed away on April 8, 1997. Her royalty checks told a different story than her chart positions ever did.
Drove my mother, now the tears in the gutter.
Number 1. Delaney and Bonnie. George Harrison joined their touring band in December 1969. Eric Clapton, who had just stepped away from both Cream and Blind Faith, liked what he heard so much that he essentially became a band member for several months, abandoning his own solo plans to play rhythm guitar beside them every night. That is a testimonial unlike any other in rock history.
Ain't nobody here but good people.
Their 1970 live album captured exactly how good the band was, a soulful and deeply felt blend of gospel, rhythm and blues, and country rock that Clapton later said shaped his entire approach to Derek and the Dominoes. The touring ensemble also included Leon Russell, Bobby Keys, and Jim Gordon, musicians who would go on to define the sound of early 1970s rock. Yet Delaney and Bonnie never cracked the commercial top tier. Their marriage dissolved in 1972, effectively ending the partnership. The music they made during that brief window remains some of the warmest, most humanly alive rock of its era, remembered best today by the legends who learned from it, and not nearly well enough by the rest of us.